Tēnā tātou. Here we are at Hui 86, and welcome to all. We'll take the first three items as normal together. Apologies, declaration of interest, and the confirmation of minutes. So the apologies will be recorded. A reminder to us all to update the team with any change in interests, and likewise we have our minutes. So I'll move those three items together. Can I have a seconder, please? Can I ask you, Tony? Can you second? Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Against, abstentions, carried. Thank you. Takes us to item 4, the quarter 3 report. Kia ora, Nick and Moonan.
Kia ora tātou. So yeah, this is quarter, I'll just remind members, completing on the 31st of March 2023. So it hasn't been the previous quarter. We'll be providing an update on that quarter at our next open week. This was a particularly trying period in the year. As everyone is aware, we had some significant storm damage during that period of time. So that occurred over the Anzac anniversary weekend, as well as in February with Cyclone Gabrielle. So some of the highlights here, of course, is that the staff were responding to damage on many of the maunga, both in terms of slips and tree damage, but also we're involved quite significantly in the Auckland emergency management process, and just personally like to just thank my team for the many hours that they put into that, and giving up a lot of their spare time. They were long shifts, about 12 hours at a go, so yeah, just another mihi to our team for that particular piece of work. During that time, though, we also released our annual operational plan and the individual maunga plans for consultation, and that's following a public notification process where it was put forward for submissions, and there were also public notifications in many of the larger publications. We also had a stand at Te Matatini that was well received, and quite a lot of information there was received by people that were interested in the work that the authority was doing. I won't go through what happened on individual maunga, but if Moonin is online, I'll hand him over just to discuss our financials.
Kia ora, Nick. Thank you. So tēnā koutou katoa. So just talking about the third quarter report ending 31st of March. The revenue is slightly favourable to the budget numbers, mainly due to some of the revenue income higher than the previous quarters. Expenditure, some of them are due to timing, especially the professional fees, and you'll probably see when we present the quarter 4 report that that's come back in line with budget. With the CAPEX, we delivered about close to 70% of the year-to-date budget number. Some of the programs were affected by the weather events in the quarter, and I think 67% is pretty good result for that quarter. Happy to take any partai. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou. Is there any discussion from members? Kia ora, Tony.
Kia ora, Chair. This one's for Nick. Nick, likewise, I'd like to really acknowledge the staff and the team for the work they did during the Auckland anniversary storm events, and it was a really challenging time for everyone, because I know a lot of households or the kaimahi themselves had flooded houses and things, as well as family obligations, but they really stepped up, and that was a really hard time, and so just big acknowledgement to everyone. On that note, I wondered whether or not you'd had any further conversations with AEM around the role of Tūpuna Maunga Authority in future storm or emergency events, and is there any more sort of clarification for you guys as to what your responsibilities are and what your roles are?
Yeah, well, there's nothing like a good emergency to put words into practice. So I think it was a really good thing in many respects for us to learn and understand. What we have done is we've organised what's known as SIMS, so that's Controlled Incident Management Systems training for our team, so that we are involved in it. Ultimately, the Tūpuna Maunga Authority as an administering body has responsibilities to administer its area, and in reality, we are responsible for just I guess responding to things like the slips in the trees and things like that does fall for us. But we are sometimes asked to deliver things on behalf of for the wider Auckland emergency management teams. In this particular scenario that we were talking about, where our team were deployed to AEM, they're working on other things, not just on the Maunga. So they were working out in Waitakere a lot. They were working inside the incident management centre, and involved in different teams, operations, as well as logistics, and also in the management side of things. We have done that. We've also touched base with them around the utilisation of some of our sites for as civil defence sites. And just making sure we've got some of the equipment on site so that they can be basically activated straight away.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
I can't see any other hands up. So thanks for the report. I'll move that. Ken, can you second that, please? Yes, thank you. All those in favour say aye, or show nods or hands. Thank you.
Aye.
Against abstentions? Carried. Thank you.
I second
takes
it
us
and I
to-
say yes.
Takes us to the Guy Fawkes response plan. Good, Nick.
Kia ora anō, members. As people be aware, fireworks is the number one cause of fires on the Tūpuna Maunga. We've been implementing a Guy Fawkes, I guess, plan for several years now, since 2019, after several large fires. That involves security guards on the gates of each of the maunga, and closing them slightly earlier at 7:30 in the evening, to basically allow us to clear off the maunga and ensure that the maunga are cleared after hours, after dark. This has now been in place for a number of years, so we're starting to see people accepting it. We get a lot of positive feedback from people about it. They want to see these things undertaken during this time, so that's been great. And it basically be closed the 4 days that the maunga or that Guy Fawkes are on sale. And then after that, we'll have security officers on site just to remind people not to utilise the site for Guy Fawkes. This is on top of a larger fire protection program that we operate, so including fire breaks around some of the houses on the maunga, ensuring that there's areas of the maunga where there are fire breaks cut into it, so that's usually around the tracks and the roads. We work with FENS to audit the fire breaks. We keep them in contact with them during Guy Fawkes period of time. We also run a letter campaign during and after, which goes out to local boards, as well as to people around the maunga, as well as some PR in the media. We're well ahead of schedule in terms of our programming for this, and we'll report back to the authority after the next program of works.
Good, Nick. I'll open it up for discussion. Any questions or comments or discussion? A very good paper and a very important part of our mahi. So I'll move that. Karen, could I ask you to second the paper, please? Thank you. All those in favour, can they show somehow? Yeah, thank you. Against, abstention? No. Carried. Thank you. Takes us to the registers, and this month's colour is Cambridge blue. We have health and safety and events. We'll take those as read and see if there's any questions or comments on the registers. Any update on those incidents on the health and safety, Nick, other than what's in the report?
No, there's no further updates.
Good, Tony.
Kia ora, just regarding the assault on a contractor during the works or tāhuhu. First of all, I do want to say that I was incredibly saddened to hear that this happened, and I know we all were. I'm hoping that the contractor is fine and feels that the Tūpuna Maunga Authority staff supported their experience, because that's really important to us. I also want to raise now that any future restoration works, I think we really need to consider how we do best protect our workers on sites. We can't have this happening again. And so if we need to kind of go a little bit further in terms of the security measures, then that's what we need to do, because we don't want it happening ever again on our watch. Just wanted to put that out there. But Nick, can you just assure me that the contractor is fine?
Yeah, so he didn't receive any major injuries. The vehicle was backed into him, and so but he was okay. It wasn't a major thing. He was a little bit shaken up and a bit disappointed, but all in all, he was fine. We are reasonably happy with our safety program and safety plan. So the security officers did review, I guess, how many they had on site and things like that. And it must be said, this is right at the end of the evening, so and it was very isolated. The person took they took the opportunity when the gates were unlocked to enter the site. So in that regards, it was relatively isolated. Yeah. So, but yeah, we will continue to look at ways in which we can improve, and we do work quite hard just to make sure that people are safe when they're undertaking works in the Tūpuna Maunga.
Kia ora, Karen.
Good. And that. So the only other one, what's that colour again, Paul? Blue thing. Yeah.
Sorry, Cambridge blue.
Cambridge blue. Sorry. Nick, it still got there in Maunga Whau that there's still a potential risk of further tripping incidents, even though the boardwalk is compliant. And I get a bit nervous about that, eh? And the options to use plants to soften. So it sounds like that's not as resolved as it could be. And it's only because of those yellow slippery things that people are getting injured on, and that's being used throughout footpaths and the like. So I'm just wondering, in terms of potential, where it says there's potential risk of further tripping incidents, and the options to use plants to soften. It just wasn't really what I was thinking was a good option. Get some plants, you're going to fall, so get some plants to soften it.
Yeah, that might not be worded as well as it could. The area in question, there's a small area that doesn't have a barrier. It's very low, so it's about I would say about 400 mils off the ground, and the incident occurred because there is typical sorts of things. There's one safety thing in there to stop another issue from happening. So there's a small barrier which is about 100 mils in height that stops a wheelchair from rolling over the edge if it gets too close to the edge. And so the person has cut a corner and then gone over that edge. So what we've done is remove that a little bit just at the corner bit so that people can't move, and we're planting trees there because we really do think it's the visual cue that people think they can walk over that particular edge rather than, it's easier to walk on a 45-degree angle and jump over it than it is to walk to the end of the boardwalk and turn left, if that makes sense. So we do think the plants will probably act as a visual cue not to do that. But in the meantime, we've also removed that little bit of area, and there'll be some signage and things like that as we usually do around watching the step.
Thank you, Nick. I think it is a bit of a wording thing because as it reads, yeah. So I think it is a wording thing. Thank you for letting us know.
Any other discussion on the registers? Thank you. You go when you have to, Ken, but we're just about there. So I'll move that paper, and only because I can see the images on the screen, I'll ask you, Tony, if you can second that one as well. Thank you. Yes, thank you. All those in favour say aye or show their approval.
Aye.
Thank you. Against abstentions, no. Carried. Thank you. That brings us to the end of the hui thank you, members. Hope you all stay safe and well, and we'll ask Nick Tūroa to close us, please.
Tēnā anō te whānau kia koutou mā ko ngā kaitiaki meki o tō tātou tūpuna maunga. Nei rā ka mihi atu I rungi o koutou me tō koutou mahi rangatira o tinoa. Me inui tātou. Unuhia te urutapu nui kia wātia kia māma te ngākau te tinana te hinengaro te wairua ki te ara takatu. Kui ara e rongo whakairiaki ki runga kia tina. Taumi e hui e. Tai ki. Mai tātou.
Good whānau.